had my camera on time-lapse mode. I don't know, I'd never used that before. See how it looks. Just kind of came in my normal way. Did a loop over by the police station. I noticed the time index looked way different. Thought I just got a software update or something, but it's on time-lapse mode. So what's up with the community meeting? Saw all sorts of new security people up by the police station. Interesting, like how it came up in the security circle the other day, like how are those people selected?
Ready to come up with new ideas, new solutions. And yeah, again, I just want to remind you, if you're interested in security for the area, I'm going to be addressed. Come talk to me afterwards. Thank you. So who's next on? Backkeeper.
I don't know if I'm going to hang around for too long.
Alright, anyone have something that they want to say about the whole precinct defense? Alright, I guess I'll say something. Yeah, I think it's super important to get people over there. And one thing is that the techniques from it, if you're away from the technical, but if you're not away, you might not do that.
How you doing today?
Hi, what's up?
Huh? What's your name, man?
I'm Seth.
How you doing out here?
I'm doing
Having
good.
fun filming everything?
Yeah, I come here every day and film stuff.
Do you?
Yeah.
Every day?
Every day.
All right.
Every day since it started. Every day since the riots in downtown.
Yeah? You been enjoying it?
I think you asked me that already.
No, but I mean, you're enjoying yourself today, but overall, have you been enjoying it?
I take it you have an issue with my filming?
Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah, people walking around just filming things, we definitely have a problem with that.
Oh.
What's your name?
I'm Seth. I'm Seth.
Seth?
Yeah.
And why did you come out today?
I come here every day. I take lots of footage and I upload it almost unedited to YouTube.
Oh, to YouTube?
Yeah.
What's the name of your channel?
It's an earthworm.
Earthworm?
You can check it out if you like.
I will. And what do you talk about?
I talk to my camera. Sometimes I have observations about things.
Yeah.
I try not to present opinions though.
Are you like with the movement, against it?
I realize that people think those are the only two options. I try to just be neutral.
Okay.
But I kind of understand that a lot of people don't believe in neutrality.
Oh, no, I do. Absolutely. Earthworm, what? What is specifically? Because I got a lot of them come
Yeah,
up.
if you search for earthworm CHAZ, I'll probably pull it up.
This is you right here?
Yeah, I do the days relative to the start.
Yeah.
So I've got sort of like I didn't observe the initial protest before the downtown riots. The downtown riots are when I started getting interested. So I just
Yeah,
kinda
no, we're just curious. We've never seen you out here before.
okay.
You know, we
Yeah, I've never seen you guys out here before either.
I don't know why. I've been down here since the protest. But a lot of people don't like to be recorded, especially the volunteers, because it puts them at risk. You know, so we just asked that.
Yeah,
if
I've
we're
heard that about the
recording
medics,
people-
but then all the medics left. All the security left too, but
No,
apparently
you
some
think
people.
they have, but
I think they have.
yeah.
Ah,
But we just asked that, especially the peoples in the Generals Assembly, you don't record that, because
I've been showing up and recording that almost every day.
Again, some people don't want you to, some people don't mind it, and then
Yeah,
some
so I've been recording the big circle, and I participated in the small circles. I didn't record that, but I recorded the summaries of the small circles afterwards.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know, okay?
Yeah, so I know
Sometimes,
some people.
especially like you go to the riot kitchen and it says, hey, please don't record staff
Yeah.
or volunteers. So
Or gender the staff too is one of
right,
the things.
exactly. So
yeah, so I
you
know the
gotta
rules.
just take that into court when you're walking all around CHAZ.
Yeah, so the rules, like, I mean, there's no like official rules, right? But it seems like the ground rules here are don't film tents, and then
don't film people.
well,
Their faces.
Yeah, really. That's what it is.
Yeah, because
I mean,
it literally puts us at risk.
Go walk up to
Yeah,
the
I
East
understand
Precinct.
There are dudes who walk in here with guns who want us dead.
Go walk up to the East Precinct and just stop and record like you just was doing, and I bet you'll cause a
oh
problem.
yeah, I was just over there. I also recorded the debate the other day about whether or not to break into the precinct.
Oh, yeah.
So that was like an hour-and-a-half long ordeal, and that's also on my channel. Okay, I guess you guys are bored with me, so I'm gonna go. Yeah, something interesting happened at least. Haven't really shared this detail, but I've been taking really long walks home. Just lots of like figure eights, lots of long stops. Just in case. It's harder to film when there's less people there for sure, and there's way less people there now because it's all sort of seems to be coming to a conclusion of some sort. What about the dog footage though? I'll think a little bit. I sort of feel ranty today. A regular rant spot. It's a good spot when protesters are marching from CHOP down to the precinct. They just march down this road, and this is sort of my my spot where I kind of walk through here. I have like different routes. A little paranoid, you know. I don't know. There's a whole variety of people there, and not really wanting anyone following me home, basically. But yeah, what those guys did was fine. Well, they I don't know. Yeah, I get like bugged pretty often. But they were nice. They were just talking and checking in with me. But yeah, that's about the most I've ever gotten talked to about what I've been doing there. Only other time was when I walked up on the leadership council down there. I was told not to film. It's about the same experience. But yeah, I noticed that pattern. Like, there's very few people down there. Seems like the people who are down there have more of certain qualities. Like just people with certain ideas and attitudes toward things get more concentrated if there's less people down there. And it seems like right now there's always less people down there. Well, at least I got to try the time lapse unintentionally today, but I don't know, it didn't look like much interesting was going on. Yeah, that's the smallest community meeting I've seen there so far. It's not very many people. Still, I think I'm going to check in on it once a day. I've seen from the YouTube views that the speeches are pretty unpopular, but I won't base what I record purely on that. It's kind of like my own interest and what I think is interesting. I think the speeches are interesting. Like the community meeting, I think is cool. Participated in that the other day in that security circle. Yeah, my topic was, well, I call what I talked about part of the security legitimacy topic, which is just like, it's like, okay, so you're security, so why are you security? How does that work? Like, what's the hierarchy? Because it's like people are forming hierarchies. There's like a guy in charge. It's like some of the guys know who that is, but may not agree with him being in charge, but aren't really saying anything. And then there's just like new people all the time that have decided, like, oh, okay, I want to come down to the shop and I want to be security. It's like, I'm not quite sure what that impulse is like. I mean, it's necessary. It seems like I've never observed like an area with 0 police until this thing started up, and now I know what that's like. It's like, okay, yeah, there's mentally ill people and people doing violence that need to get talked to and de-escalated, as they would say down there. So it's just random people doing it. Or random, you know, I don't know if they're random. I just don't know how that works. Huh. All right. Yeah, I think my pattern now is I'll just like, each day I'll get like a quick walkthrough. I'll just do the police station's tricky now because like people don't like being filmed in their tents, and now the police station is surrounded in tents, so that's makes it a little more awkward to film. But yeah, I'll just try to get the police station area, do a walk through the main street, which is almost empty now, and I'll check out the garden every couple days. Yeah. Hard to be calm when you got random people stopping you, interrogating you, talking to you like cops, actually. There's a really funny YouTube video. I should find the link. It's a guy goes to a police station and starts talking to a random police officer, like a police officer. Like the guy is talking to the other guy is not a police officer himself. He's asking questions like, "So you've been drinking?" And then police officer's coworker comes up, and guy asks his police officer's coworker, "Has your friend been drinking?" All sorts of other stuff. Like it's the same deal. I mean, same patterns. Like those guys were asking me like a duplicate question. So it's like, yeah. Yeah, there's dwindling numbers. There's a little tent camp around the precinct. Same old spiel. The reminds me of the thing I was talking about in the community group about the qualified immunity topic. It's like it seems like a common thing people want, at least people who know about it or what it is or what it means, is the qualified immunity idea. So I mean, I hadn't heard of that before this whole CHAZ and CHOP thing. But then it's like, okay, I know the term, so I just go look up the Wikipedia page and read it, and now I know what it is. But short summary is, cop performs his duty, and it puts him in a situation of high hazard, like accidents could happen. Like a good example is a high-speed car chase. You accidentally get in a car accident, damage someone else's property, their business or their car or whatever. It's like, well, the police officer was performing his duty, and that damage happened in the performance of that duty. But it's like people have been talking about like get rid of qualified immunity, just like some people have been talking about abolish the police. It seems like more people are talking about defund the police, specifically by 50% for some reason. But people also, with the qualified immunity though, it seems like people are kind of, they don't know about it, or they just want it gone. So it seems like the effect of that is now a police officer is no longer immune from things that are considered to be within the performance of their duty. So at that point, they basically have the same liability as a normal citizen. Normal citizens like the medic / security, which is sort of a combined role down in CHOP. But there's like there's that, and it seems like the people there, as soon as something bad is happening, and there's like cherry-picked videos online, but it's cherry-picked in one sense and it's not cherry-picked in another. As soon as anything bad happens, as soon as there is any violence, especially when the medics are restraining someone, everyone yells, "Stop filming." And then it's like, okay, yeah, I get the fear. It's like you don't have qualified immunity and you're doing things where there's a high potential for hazard, or accidentally injuring someone or something like that. But there's that, and then that combined with this other common thing. It was early on. I haven't seen it much lately, but early on it was like on the posters everywhere, and everyone was talking about it, about how police should have their body cameras on at all times. So there's an asymmetry. Like it doesn't seem like people have, like, people don't see that asymmetry there. It's like, okay, people there are thinking we're gonna replace the police. We don't need the police here, and they're trying to they're acting as a replacement. They're filling those functions, but they're not really. There's a little asymmetry with like how they're being versus how they want the police to be, or the protections they want taken away from the police, I guess I'm saying. It's murky though. It's interesting though, like past couple days I've seen police in Capitol Hill. Like I saw them on the border downtown, sort of over there, and then I saw them by the grocery store, the big QFC everyone goes to over there. And that QFC, like, that's CHOP, like probably 2 blocks distance from me over there, and 1 block that way is the QFC. So it's sort of 2 blocks away is the place where all the police were. I don't know what they were doing, but like they were handling some situation, and no one seemed to be reacting like they would have. Like if that was what's it been now, like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I can't remember, but like if it was the same mindset as the Sunday, where like after that protest Sunday the protesters left, it seemed like that would have been an issue, but now it's not. So things seem to be like changing and evolving. I don't quite understand it. I'm just trying to like relate my observations. So maybe the security guys will subscribe to my YouTube channel. Maybe like some videos. I don't know. I don't think people would have an issue with most of what I say. There's a couple weird things though, like observations I make. Yeah. Just ranting. Oh, it's a beautiful day out. Yeah. Another random rant. So I do yoga, and there happens to be lots of people in yoga who are into like woo-woo stuff and spirituality and that type of stuff. Yoga's like the least serious religion, but people talking about like chakras and like energy and things like this. Where's I going with that point? I don't even know. Where was I even going with that point? This is probably one of those ones I edit out. There's no value. Nothing interesting was said. Yeah, I seriously don't remember what I was talking about. But yeah, I feel like I could have handled that encounter with security a little better. I felt my heart racing a little bit, but with their communication was fine. Seemed like they just did their cop talk and then left me alone after they confirmed my YouTube channel existed. So, it's the college right there. Cool building. I just don't know. Oh yeah, the yoga rant. So part of the, like anything woo-woo that's not, I've noticed like yoga and fitness people on like YouTube, or there's different people doing different things, but that's like one thing people like to say is that everyone's different, but that's the thing, everyone is not different. That's inaccurate though. It's like people are the same in some ways and they're different in some ways. People's brains are naturally polar. That's one of the built-in things. But also like nature versus nurture, like some people are like, there's hardware and then there's software, right? People definitely have both, right? The construction of your brain and the fact that you're a human and not like a lizard or a chicken or something. Like these animals all act different, but social behavior is partially genetically determined by like your species, and it's partially determined by your software. But I mean, so complex situations like what's going on over in the CHOP are sort of a combination of both. But I guess what I'm getting at is the way things are unfolding here are bound to have similarities to elsewhere. Because I mean, everyone's got the same hardware, but then also it's the same like software update, like the patch everyone's been getting, the new knowledge, the program. It's very similar everywhere, and people are able to do that now because of modern communication technologies, which have not actually existed that long. Like there was no like I saw the creation of social media, like I'm that old, but also I saw the creation of like common people having cell phones, and then common people having smartphones, and then everyone being on social media. But that communication and that machinery is it's a new type of software. It's no longer the analogy, but it's like the same idea. So like these things are shaping our communication, and how we interact and how we communicate are being shaped by like algorithms that computer programmers like myself make. Because I don't work on that stuff. I work on like making shovels for the people who make that stuff. So I'm mixing literal and metaphor a lot. It's probably a little hard to follow, but yeah, so there's that. All these things play into situation. Oh, I mean, a huge example of that, of modern communication technologies. I'll use a George Floyd example. It's not going to be controversial, or I hope it's not. I'm not trying to be controversial, but it's simply saying that the ability for that video to be distributed and viewable by everyone instantaneously everywhere at the same time, that capability hasn't been around for that long. That's like, like YouTube enables that, and YouTube's been around for a little while now, but I guess the market penetration, like the number of people who are using it, is drastically increased in recent years and not too long. And it seems like there's this new like technological capability that people have, and like our software running in like our individual minds hasn't yet caught up or understood how to deal with the software that's being run in these like social media platforms that everyone is connected into this larger thing through. And also it's this weird like misalignment of incentives with social media companies. Like probably if I like went after this idea and made my judgment about optimizing my number of YouTube views or something, I could do that by, let's be more clickbaity, let's have more like clickbaity titles and thumbnails, and let's try to focus on like the mental health cases, and let's try to find and film violence and stuff like that. Not really what I'm after, but there's, I don't know if it's an accurate way to put it, but there's an adversarial relationship between people and the social media platforms they're integrated with. I'll expand on the adversarial a little bit because that's probably not quite the right term, so I'm just going to try to describe what I mean. The people who use social media platforms are the product. So their attention, and these are all people like with bank accounts that have money, they have jobs, money's passing through them, the financial system of the world gives them purchasing decisions, and businesses want to advertise. So social media platforms, they get to know everything about you. They like have your identity, and they have facts about you, and they have your preferences, and they know like your sexual preferences, your like religious preferences, your political preferences, and they're willing to advertise to influence those things. They're willing to in politics, that market is a good example. Like there's huge money in politics, and Facebook is able to identify and influence your opinions, and they're able to apply science to be effective, to know if they're effective in doing that. So they can run like test campaigns where they take like 2% of their users and subject them to some stimulus and then measure their response, and then like that's an experiment, and they're just doing these experiments like all the time, and they're figuring out like new things and new ways that they can sell control of you for the purpose of capturing purchasing decisions, which it seems harmless, but a problem is that they think of political candidates as a purchasing decision we make, and it's the same idea. It's like it's something they're willing to sell that influence. But so there's like a hyper awareness about the portrayal of the chop on social media, and now that there's relatively few people there, it seems like somehow like the interactions, like the no filming, and the no filming seems to be related to mistrust of systems, and because it's like, you know, I could be hooked into that, right? I could be some YouTuber like making a living on YouTube, like, because you can do that, right? I think if you're getting like 1 million views, it's like you know, $5,000. It depends on like the quality of your views and what kind of viewers you have and what advertisers those can be paired with and stuff like that. But it's like I could be that, and then it's like that system, if I were an extension of that, and I knew I was getting, because I got a little obsessed with my YouTube stats, just trying to understand how it works. And you know, I can see when I've done clickbaity stuff, like the MAGA hat spotted video, and I post the picture of the open carry guys. I was sort of in a, you know, see how this clickbait works. And it worked really well. That video got, you know, a lot of views. So it's like this system, this algorithm is integrating me, and I can kind of see at least some of that, like how it's influencing my decisions and it's making me do things. But for a lot of people, like that level of control, like if that's your living, if your living is getting views, and you're constantly running these personal experiments, like you're videotaping, and then you noticed, oh, okay, I videotaped a guy hitting another guy with a socket wrench or something. That got 50,000 views, and now I've got this, like, more money. Like, this is more success. Let's find more of those. Let's find more emotion. So it's like, it seems like they're finding aspects of people's hardware to elicit attention, to get attention. Like our hardware, when we see violence, that just like locks our attention on, because that's like, you know, that's our hardware that stops us from getting eaten by alligators and whatnot. But social media platforms are running experiments designed at optimizing for attention. And most things in the world are not independent of other things. Most things are interrelated and complicated. But I think people can kind of intuitively understand that with if you're evoking strong emotional responses, that's going to have side effects besides just increasing a view count. That's going to affect people. So a big word in the chop, big word being just not big word, but commonly used word is trauma. But I feel like that's like actually a good word. The guy in the conversation I talked to outside the precinct a couple nights ago, he used that word to describe an effect of Facebook. And like you're capturing people's attention by like giving them a stimulus which gives them like a strong emotional response. But you're doing that to keep their attention so you can sell them to advertisers. It's actually not beneficial for those people that are being subjected to that. The platforms offer some benefit, otherwise people wouldn't use them. Like, you can communicate with anyone, you can find, I don't know, whoever you went to high school with or whatever. But it's not a product. It's like, that's the thing. It's like you're the product. Like, I'm the product. And if you kind of think about it that way, you start to recognize, you start to feel these things. Like, I feel it with how YouTube works, because this whole filming of protests and CHAZ and CHOP and riots and all this is my first YouTube kind of experience. But it's like, you know, I've uploaded like half a terabyte now of video. But circling back around to my awkward interaction with the security guys, and they were fine. Yeah, that guy was doing the cop talk, the repeated questions, but yeah, they were just, that is like the reason people have the problem with the camera is because it's connected to these systems that cause trauma. But I don't know, I'm not using it that way, I don't think. It seems like I kind of was a little bit when I was thinking, like, how many more views can I get? Maybe I'll be a little clickbaity. And I did a little bit of that. I kind of stopped doing that, though. I think I did. But, that's all very connected. That's very connected in with the reaction to filming over in the chop. And yeah, it's like what would social media as a product look like if that was actually the product people were purchasing? Facebook where you're actually the customer, you're not the product. What would that be like? I don't know. That's weird. I feel like less good about going down to the chop like now. Well, there's been different times, so I've had different perceptions of, like, it's very vague, but I've had different like feelings of safety when I've gone down there. I remember at first I felt really safe up through Juneteenth, then late Juneteenth it felt very unsafe. And then it seems like all the security people left at the same time, and now there's security people who are back. And yeah. And now, I don't know. My mood doesn't, describe reality or anything, but it feels like it's trending back toward unsafe again. But I don't know. Yeah, someone made there's that saying, lies, damn lies, and then statistics, as if statistics are worse than lies and damn lies. Saw a statistic about the chop, though. Someone made a Wikipedia page. It's of course contested because people aren't, when something's new, you're not sure if it's like a notable historical event. You're not sure if people are going to give a shit in like 2 years. I don't know if people will give a shit about the chop in 2 years. But oh yeah, so someone like represented the chop as like Wikipedia. It's got some cross-referencing or whatever, but somehow it was showing up on the page about like violence per 100,000 people, or like murders per 100,000 people or something. And I guess someone filled out, and like Wikipedia thought CHOP was like a nation, or the CHAZ was a nation, which actually I think that was the intention of a lot of people early on. But it showed the murders per 100,000 people as being like 20x the second most violent place on Earth. But then it's like, statistics, right? What's the population of the CHOP? It's like, how do you even figure that out? I guess you just, I don't know, figure out how many people are living in the tents, and then yeah. My brain's just bouncing around. A big problem, though, is going to be, I've seen a few of the statistics about outcomes in police encounters being correlated with race, and there is an indication. I mean, that is an indication, and I think everyone kind of agrees that all those different statistics, they're not all incorrect. So there is some kind of special in the technical sense, special just being, or I'll just use the word different. There's a different treatment of different races by the police because there's different outcomes, like, but the only way we've got to understand this is statistics. That's how you understand large populations of things. And like, I know I didn't always have a brain which could process that stuff. I got the software to do that because I went to a community college, took a statistics class, and then later in work, I have to understand the behavior of large populations of servers that are running, and you need basic statistical ideas, and you also need, that's like a practical application of that too, so you just learn to like reason and think intuitively, and then generate like aggregated views of large populations and think about and understand those populations and how they're acting, or how, you know, those servers are responding to requests or whatever. But I know I didn't initially have that. Well, I don't expect many people to have that. And yet, if you're going to affect the world, you have to be able to understand the world first. Because otherwise, you know, how the hell do you know if you're making a difference? Or how do you even know what the problem is if the problem exists with a statistic which covers 10 million police encounters per year, or whatever number it is. I don't know if that number is accurate. I heard that number, but I don't know if that's accurate. But just the idea I'm going for is like, CHAZ and CHOP and the event which kicked everything off was non-local. Like, that didn't happen in Seattle, yet the response was in Seattle. So everyone's thinking about everyone's problem, and I suspect that the software package you need, that for me it seemed very expensive to acquire. It was like brutal amounts of time learning statistics in school, and then brutal amounts of time kind of like leveling up a career trying to with that component, practicing that, and like that being a necessary component of me being effective and like leveling up a career. Like a huge expense for me to acquire the ability to understand large populations. So like, I don't think too many people have that, but at the same time, it seems the problems everyone's tackling, which is like non-local, because everyone's concerned with like police violence everywhere, but does everyone have the tools necessary to understand police violence everywhere? I think not. But to affect the world, you have to. It's fine if not everyone has it, but then the thing about people, man. People specialize. Like, I do computer programming. Some people like build like this parking structure I'm sitting on. Some people build like the building over there, or like know about how the electrical works, or they know about like the nuclear power plant that electricity was generated in. Everyone specializes on something. It's like people are like the stem cells of society, like the unspecialized cell, and they're able to specialize to high degrees. Some people are politicians as a specialization. So like, the specialization is the reason that everyone doesn't need to have the ability to understand police violence, but it does require that people who do understand that stuff are in leadership positions. And there's this quality of what's happening down there. Like a lot of people, like they value that it's leaderless, or they think it's leaderless. I can say for a fact it's not leaderless. Like there's asymmetry between the authority of different people, right? So like you saw security leaders back there that I was talking to, in a sense. But it gets back to just why I find CHOP so fascinating. It's a dumb analogy, but it's kind of like there's like everything got, or a big chunk of society, which is the presence of the police and their various functions, got taken away. Problems arose. People have been rising to the occasion to solve those problems. It's been chaotic to some degree. It's been organized to some degree. But observing that, you don't normally get to observe that. Big rant. It's definitely transition though. The temporary Coachella vibe is definitely now gone, and I think that Coachella vibe, a lot of it was the fact that everyone was isolated. Now there's a big event going on in their neighborhood. People turned it into that, especially people around here. This is like the part of town with the school right there, and like University of Washington like 4 miles away. Just tons of young people living here, and like that street there, like 1 block over, and this street here actually, it's just like bars, just bars along the whole thing, where young people like party hard on the weekends. But yeah, the young people here too are also all the service workers, and they all got unemployed at the same time. Probably a lot of them had no real ability to weather that storm. So I mean, that $1,200 stimulus or whatever, necessity for a lot of people. But I can see how a lot of people could feel, not necessarily consciously think, but just like feel like they got the short end of the stick in society. Yeah, I don't really think about it, but remember, oh yeah. Yeah. Kind of my thoughts on that. Been forming some thoughts. Been trying to like fence it in. There's a stupid philosophy idea about you have to set things apart in the world. You have to put things into boxes to affect anything. It's like, I guess it's like a funny kind of, it's like philosophical, like computer science foundations or like information theory or something, but it's like, what's the minimum number of states, right? It has to be 2, because if you just have 1 state, that's not information. So like, there can't be a thing that's represented by the 1 state, because if there's more than 1 thing in the universe, and there's only 1 state, you can't set anything apart, so you can't affect anything. It sounds kind of far out, but it's actually not that far out. It's like, this is why computers are typically, well, they're binary. It's a 2 states. You got a 0 and you got a 1, and that's what your computer processes. Computers don't have to process that way. They can process more states. It turns out that that's actually convenient for electrical engineers who build CPUs to have them only deal with 2 states. Some parts of computers are more than 2 states though. Like, I don't know, like a NAND flash cell. There's multiple states those things are in to hold more data. That relates to anything. Yeah, honestly don't feel like going down there anymore. Epic rant today. Got sort of a natural aversion to the like what happened back there. I have to really control like my reaction to it. Yeah, I guess I just feel like the question authority a little bit. That's why it makes me think of that legitimacy of the security topic. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're security. You made yourself security, and now you're wanting to know why I'm filming. It seems like society is all about the mechanisms of selection of people who filled various functions. Those mechanisms just like, it's like, okay, that stuff's all gone in the chop now. We're gonna figure that out. Everyone's just gonna get some red duct tape, and if you've got a red X on your back, then you're a medic, and then you're security. And I mean, obviously the variations in competence of the medics is very wide. Like it's going to be a much tighter variation with people who are like paramedics, like certified paramedics, for example. So it's like, I mean, that makes sense though, right? Like you go through, and no doubt a lot of the medics at CHOP, like I wouldn't be surprised if there are like real paramedics there get involved in that. There's a couple of them. But the variation, like, you know, understanding the population, like this is a guess I would have that, you know, would need confirmation, but I would guess that the variation in terms of like competence would vary widely. Like, I mean, it's a video, there was like a tourniquet video that was like a viral video online, which is an example of one of the medics who was not competent, or very, very low degree of competence, putting a tourniquet for no good reason on someone. But you just got to expect that. And then it's like, because people can't understand populations, they can't understand statistics commonly, like a lot of people, but among the population of people, there's not many people who can think about large populations. It's real easy to for like news outlets to because news outlets, you're their product too. It's the same situation with Facebook. Your relationship to Fox News is the same as your relationship to Facebook. They're selling you to advertisers, selling your attention to advertisers. But it's like, if you can't understand populations and then you film some silly incident like that tourniquet incident, you give that to people, and like, how do people understand that as a representation of the population of the CHOP? They don't, or they misunderstand it. I think the inclination is to like think that that's more representative than it is, not just like an isolated incident. don't know, the education's good for sure. I mean, you take a statistics class, that's gonna increase your ability to understand the world. And by increasing your ability to understand the world, it's gonna make it more possible for you to affect the world. But I mean, one thing I have not seen here that I've heard about elsewhere is sort of the STEM is racist thing. I've really seen that personally myself here. I mean, STEM, except for the weirdos who are like the pure math people. STEM is about learning things to affect the world. Even then, the pure math people, most of the time they'll need to get jobs and end up applying that stuff. I feel like I'm ranted out. I feel better after having ranted.